Hi, this is a watercolor portrait that I'm working on. It is based on the way Odd Nerdrum explained to me that he would paint watercolor in his early 20s. In this technique, you are working without any preliminary drawing. You are really saturating the paper so that you have a lot of color that you can push around and suck up, and you can glaze and you can do all kinds of things. Normally, people will tell you that you have to save the white of the paper, you cannot use black, etc., etc. If you check out these 10 sessions, you will see that watercolor can be an infinitely much richer technique than what you've been taught. So join me as I try to recreate Odd Nerdrum's technique. Enjoy! What I'm going to do now is first to spray the paper and let that soak a little bit, make it more even, and before I go in with some color. So work it into the paper, and make it even. I'm going to start with this raw umber from Schminke, and let's see here. I can actually just give it an imprimatura. So let's see how this works. Need to be to soak it even more, I think. So basically the same technique as I use in oil. I want to get a full glaze and imprimatura, and also because it's kind of hassle to start on that white paper. And so I also give it a bit of time to dry. So now I established the room, the atmosphere that I'm going to paint in, and give it a fairly nice finish, and then basically just starting to sketch into that. And I'll be mostly using this the raw umber for this session. So because this is so literally sketch-like, I will just use let's see here. Oh, that's hard. Let me use this in the beginning at least. So just adding some water from now and then, and so that there. So that what I do is I'm not committing myself too much. So something like this. Then the hair comes down. Let's see here, so very lightly sketching in. To get an idea of where I am, and lot of thinking, so I'm trying to speak at the same time. Let's see here now. Okay. So a fairly okay, so I have this, I think that works. A little more that. And focusing mainly on, oh yeah, okay, it's a bit, if this goes down here, this goes here. Getting the proportions correct, obviously, just adding more water. And so the width here, it's a question of getting those things correct. So something like, it's always a challenge to start the face because it becomes so crude, right? You just have to jump and see what you can get. So I go in, I actually place the eyes quite carefully from the very beginning so that I have a reference point already for where I'm going. And the reason for starting with this color is that it has some affinity with the colors of the model, but not very much, but I can find some of that quality there, and it's also quite frankly because that's how I've seen Hertwig start his watercolors, so I quite simply want to do what he does. I think imitation and emulation is the key to learning. Okay, so you see I'm drawing quite carefully here because I want to be sure, since it's watercolor, that things are neatly placed. So go here, okay. And this raw umber from Schminke is really quite nice, and it has a really nice consistency too, so it really lends itself very nicely to starting with, as an imprimatur, as a first layer in the wet and wet technique. You see there, it's probably due to the amount of gum arabicum, I guess it has a very oil paint like quality to it actually. See, so that's one thing. You see, it's better to start a bit too high up and move it down than the other way, even though when I do PR for watercolor, I always say that you can change a lot, and of course you can, but you want to have a sure hand, right? You want to exercise having that, and getting information on, seeing that okay, that was more than I needed, or to get enough on so that you can evaluate where you are, so that you are not suddenly exaggerating the forms. Okay, so basically sort of like a Florentine drawing at this point, right? So here and then down there. And so this looks like the Virgin Mary right now because of this looking like a hood or like a shawl. So you see, I'm quite careful because I need to establish the width of the face, and I try to work for a bit of time in this color and value range. So okay. Now to separate the face from the hair, let's go in calmly and do this. And this goes more in here. I can dissolve this later so I don't have to worry about a too hard line. And this should go up a little bit too. Let's see here. And then this comes here, and then actually the hair, the profile of the hair comes further in. And here, yeah, something like that. And then you have this coming here, just over her nose. That's where this starts turning. Okay, a little bit more water. So this doesn't matter. I can that will disappear in later layers, as you will see. So let's check out this, the Rosemary Short Flat Series 274. It's so nice for bigger areas, and I have the water outside the image right now, but yeah, it's just water, so you can imagine how it looks like. And carefully going in. So just thinking value and middle tone. So okay. Right. Some more color, and still I'm starting to feel the itch to go in with darker colors. I will resist for a little while, I think. And work more on this. So this is, in some sense, it's also fairly different to how I work with oil, because as I say, even though you can move things quite a bit around, I want to be fairly sure about placement before the placement is okay, so that I'm not going really in with color before I know there's a point in adding color where I'm working. So basically drawing first. And let's see here. Somewhere here. Make sure the nose is not too broad either. Okay, like over there, so this is still wet. I'd rather have too soft transitions than too hard. So, but all of this advice is something you have to take with a grain of salt, because you have to adjust it to the actual situation. So this goes here, and this of course will stick better if I wait a little bit and let it dry. So that's it. And even a little bit up, I think. So yeah, a lot of drawing actually. Now let's see. Just to get that darker, there is of course a different color here, so I'll be sure not to go too dark with this color, because it's not as colored the absolute correct color. But it gives me a sense of volume. All right, so giving the model a little bit of rest, I can work into the surroundings. Let's give a sense of a full room. You see how I can, that's what I like about the consistency of this color. It's really behaves like paint, and also with this brush. Just add a little bit of water. And just to give you guys a little taste, you see here, if I'm quick, you can go over something and not lose it. Now this was still wet, so I did lose a little bit of course, but you can paint across shapes. Oh, let's see here. And remember, I want to go further down and then rather dig up again. Let's see here. because since you're starting on white paper, even though you're making a sort of imprimatura first, you do spend some time getting enough color on, getting the paper saturated enough, getting dark enough. Oh, you see, I'm taking away again because this has been working. The water has been working there, so but that doesn't really. Yeah, you see, I get that line. That doesn't really matter that much because I will be covering this even further. So I'm tempted to start using some Van Dyke brown, especially for the color of the hair. I will try to use this a little bit more though first, and just to go over and double check things. Because I know from experience that I want to I would like to have things working before I really go in with color when it comes to watercolor. So here, yes, now it's drier. You see, of course, the paint covers more, and so this is a slightly different technique from the one I'm showing you with the landscape, because I'm going in and painting more in that sense, whereas the landscape perhaps is more glaze based, painting thinner in layers and gradually working it up, because it's quite the motif is much more advanced in terms of the amount of information I am including there. So let's get that little nice heart shaped. Yep. Let's see. There. So just indicating some forms. And okay, yeah, this is nice. If it comes down, like that, and you see that's the beauty of just using color from tubes, because you can actually paint. It's not watercolor as such. So I like those indications of the main forms like that. That's one of the things you also see in Hertevig, in his watercolors, and obviously in his paintings as well. The getting the counter line working is really important. It gives a lot of credibility to what is inside the form. So okay. Yep. Now this, let's see here, will not be so dark in the final result, but it gives me a keen sense of where things are. Let's see here now. No. So as you can understand, talking in a low, calm voice makes your watercolor much better. Now let's see here. If I was shouting, this wouldn't be as good. and then from the mouth there and there and there. Okay, I can take some more. Let's see. See, I can just really work that in. Also, I think here, just pure paint. So that's painting dry, you could say. Really like dry oil paint. It's great. So I'm not sure about the exact how exactly how the hair will look like. So I'll just make some approximation and not commit myself too specifically to a shape. So now the face is getting very, very light, right? Maybe too light. So I'll have to deal with that later. Maybe even in the next session, we'll see. I might already now go in with a more reddish tone, more correct skin color. But I also don't want that to melt too much together with the other things, so we'll just see how this session goes. I have some intentions and we'll see if reality allows me to fulfill those or fulfill those intentions. Yeah. So like that. So as you can see, just dry paint. So let's see here. Okay. And as you can see, I can use the hairs to create that impression of hair. Thank you for checking out this video from the School of Apelles. To watch the full video and access our premium library, go to caveofapelles.com/subscribe and become a $10 patron. That's caveofapelles.com/subscribe.